The Speaker of the House today, John Boehner, became the latest Republican to insist that the U.S. will not see economic Armageddon on August 2nd, even if Congress fails to raise the government's borrowing limit. Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner says the government could default on that date, but Boehner called it an artificial deadline, echoing what Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann told Bob Schieffer on Face the Nation.
First of all, it isn't true that the government would default on its debt because, very simply, the Treasury Secretary can pay the interest on the debt first, and then from there, we have to just prioritize our spending.
So is the country facing an economic train wreck on the 2nd of August? We asked Anthony Mason to find out.
If the U.S. maxes out its credit card, economists say the Treasury will still be able to make the interest payments on its debt.
We're not going to default, but that's irrelevant. I mean, at the end of the day, if we don't raise the debt ceiling, the economy is going to go back in recession, interest rates are going to spike.
And the recession would be deep, warns economist Mark Zandi, who's advised candidates in both parties. The Treasury would immediately have to cut and prioritize its spending. Debt and interest payments would be made first. $500 billion is due in August alone. Social Security and Medicare would be next on the list.
On August 2nd, the government won't have to cut Social Security payments or Medicare. But if it drags on for a couple, 3-4 weeks, then yeah, I think they'll have no choice but to cut almost everything that the government does, including Social Security and Medicare.
Then the government would have to begin putting employees on furlough.
What's the risk if we hit the ceiling?
It would shake the basic foundation of the entire global financial system.
Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner has said the biggest casualty would be confidence.
The psychological impact of something like this is huge.
Absolutely. And, you don't want the genie out of the bottle.
Rick Mishkin, a former Federal Reserve governor, says the countries that have lent money to the U.S. would begin to doubt whether they'll be paid back.
And that's what drives the interest rate up.
That drives the interest rates up, and that's one of the things that would hurt us.
Right, because then all the debt we have to pay back at a much higher rate.
And we have a ton of it. That's the key thing. We have a ton of it.
$14.3 trillion to be exact. If there isn't progress by mid-July, Mark Zandi says, the pressure will start to build. That's when Moody's has threatened to lower the government's AAA credit rating if a resolution is not in sight.
Anthony, has the U.S. government credit rating ever been downgraded? And if it is, what happens?
Never happened, Scott. If it does, if we lose that AAA rating, it's going to cost us more to pay off the debt. It's like your credit card company calling you saying, we think you're a greater risk. Up goes your rating.
Thanks, Anthony.